So officially, if this is going to go online on the record, Bobby, I hope you're well.
I'm excellent, sir. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. Israel and Palestine, I think let's just go straight into it. I'd like to hear your views. Hamas, I don't know how to pronounce it, bombed a part of Israel around that Gaza Strip. And you realize when you read comments online how many people are ignorant of everything that's happening.
Yeah.
And in a country like ours that is very racially polarized and has a history of apartheid and colonization, black people, dark-skinned people, people that were oppressed, emotionally always go for the person that looks like an underdog. Could be Putin, could be Palestine, without researching anything that's happened. You realize how many people are ignorant. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts around, not necessarily that, but we can speak about that because that's what triggered this conversation. But just about Israel and Palestine, just as two nations or as a piece of land.
So I screenshot a post that The Rock posted this morning.
Dwayne Johnson,
yes. So I wanna read what he said, and then maybe that will give us a little bit of context to take the conversation further.
Sure.
He says, "I'm heartbroken, angry, and sickened by the brutal murders and kidnapping of Jewish people through the horrific acts of the Hamas terrorist group. The growing loss of innocent Israeli and Palestinian lives is heart-wrenching as the war escalates to immense proportions. I don't pretend to know everything about the complex conflict in the Middle East. It commands deep understanding, context, and nuance. What I do know is hateful acts of terrorism like these are never justified. I condemn and denounce terrorism, and in this devastating moment, my heart goes out to all the innocent victims and families grieving for their loved lost ones. I pray for compassion and resolve. I pray for all innocent lives." We are in October 2023. We have a lot of technology that we can use as resources. We have brilliant minds. We have absolutely no excuse to say that whatever I'm doing or whatever that person is doing is okay, to take innocent lives and torture innocent people. Now, it depends on which side of the fence you sit. You can justify. That's life. I mean, business, war always has casualties. And I like that part that he said, "I don't pretend to know everything about the complex conflict in the Middle East. It commands deep understanding, context, and nuance. But what I do know is hateful acts of terrorism like these are never justified." Now, on both sides of the fence, you have people say that hateful acts of terrorism happen every day.
Yeah.
And most of them are not televised or reported on.
Sure.
So on both sides.
Sure.
Having said that, I still don't understand why in 2023 we can't have peaceful but vicious roundtable sit-downs and have a best case scenario, and we have to resort to loss of lives. I think the politicians that run both governments, in my opinion, are not making enough effort to prevent this by going toe-to-toe over an extended period of time before they result to this type of loss of life. That's my emotional being trying to process with the limited vocabulary that I have where the situation is right now.
Barack Obama tweeted, this was South African time at 11 p.m. on the 9th of October. I see now it's got 65 million views. All Americans should be horrified. All Americans. How does he speak?
Yeah.
All Americans.
And then the hands.
All Americans should be horrified and outraged by the brazen terrorist attacks on Israel and the slaughter of innocent civilians. We grieve for those who died pray for the safe return of those who've been held hostage, and stand squarely alongside our ally, Israel, as it dismantles Hamas. As we support Israel's right to defend itself against terror, we must keep striving for a just and lasting peace for Israelis and Palestinians alike. I'm reading Barack Obama's tweet in particular because after George Bush as president, he was the next president to follow on with the supposed war on terror in Iraq, Afghanistan, I think Iran as well, where I don't know if it's thousands or hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of lives were lost, including innocent civilians.
Yes.
And many people have called George Bush, they've called Barack Obama war criminals.
Yes.
And terrorists themselves, and they've never been held to the same standard as maybe a Vladimir Putin by the United Nations. So a lot of people get inflamed when they see stuff like this. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, he's an entertainer.
Yes.
Ex-pro wrestler, but he's speaking from his side, and we understand. When Barack Obama tweets this, it's like Putin tweeting. It's like Mugabe tweeting. The ANC has officially said as a political party that they stand with Palestine, particularly because the Palestinian Liberation, I don't know if it's organization, the PLO,
yes,
fully supported anti-apartheid sentiments throughout. Israel started in the 1950s and 60s supporting anti-apartheid. And then there were issues with some of the African and Arab nations around oil, where Israel felt they had no choice but to support the apartheid regime in South Africa in the 1960s or the 1970s and 80s. But then pressure from America forced Israel to also agree to sanctions. So from 1987, they also sanctioned the apartheid government. But a lot of people that were fighting against apartheid never forgot that time. And that's why a lot of them are still angry with Israel today.
That's very important context.
It's very important, and it's something for people to understand. So that's today. I don't know what the latest numbers are, but last I checked, over 800 Israeli people had died.
Yes.
I think over 1,000 people on both sides, including civilians, military, over 1,000 people had died because of what's been happening. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has gone to say officially we're at war. And which is, look, officially, but the conflict has been ongoing since, I think, officially 1948.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. Again, people don't know the history. And look, I'm not going to profess to know the history as well. I also have been doing a little bit of research. That's recent history. This 1948 thing is after World War II, I think.
Yes.
The world is a piece of land. The world is all pieces of land.
Yes.
What we're dealing with here, for people that really, really want to simplify it to its granular level, is people fighting over a piece of land.
Yes.
It's me and you fighting over this desk. Now the question becomes, when did it start? Did it start with Hamas now? Did it start with whatever? When you look at almost all the official reports, they start with one man, Abraham. We sang the song in school, Father Abraham had many sons.
Yeah.
Father Abraham had many sons. Abraham is known as the father of the three Abrahamic faiths, being Judaism as the oldest. I think it's almost 4,000 years old, followed by Christianity, which was through the Jewish Jesus Christ, who was seen as the Son of God, the God of Abraham. And mind you, Abraham's message was largely spread to the Jewish people through Moses.
Yes.
And then Jesus came. And then people became Christian.
Yes.
And then afterwards, Prophet Muhammad, who was a prophet and who was the embodiment of a godly life, he came, and that was the birth, I'd like to think, of Islam.
Yes.
Islam, I think, is the youngest at maybe 1,500 years old.
Yeah.
Christianity, I think, is about 2,000 years old. So Abraham getting a message from God, the God of Muslims, Jews, and Christians. All of these people have the same God. You have the Torah, you have the Bible, you have the Quran. Quran is in Arabic. You've got the Bible. I don't know if it was in Aramaic or whatever it was back in the day. You had the Torah.
Aramaic, yes.
In Hebrew.
Yes.
These are all scriptures that speak of the same Abraham is the same gent. So all of them are like, say, that's our number one ancestor, you know. He said, God told him that we must settle here. in a place called Canaan. Not Canaan Moody, the Springboks player, but he's probably named after the place, Canaan. And then from that point, we almost start this history.
Yes.
People settled. One of the kings at the time, I don't know if it was Saul or Solomon, they built a temple,
yes,
a Jewish temple there. And for many Jewish people, they were like, this was the beginning of that piece of land being ours. We can go back and say, before the Muslims and anyone else came, we had a temple here.
Yes.
For us. So this is actually our land. Back in the day, Abraham, even the Jewish faith, we're the oldest. That's why we're God's favorite people. And people get upset with that. And you're like, when you look at the history, put emotions aside. You can be Christian, you can be Muslim. You have to explain how old your religious belief is. And you have to acknowledge that Judaism is the oldest. It's the history, but we can debate if history is right or wrong, but that's what's there.
Yeah.
Now you fast forward and so many things have happened on that piece of land where not just Jewish people, the Greeks at some point took control of that land.
Yes.
The Romans, the Ottoman Empire, an Islamic Ottoman Empire came and named that place Palestine.
Yeah.
Because I think Israel was like the promised land.
Yes.
I think that's what it means. They named it Palestine. So it switched hands. They're not the only ones. There are other smaller groups that are not as popular that also seized control of that land. World War I, World War II, there were issues with the Jewish people. After I think the Ottoman Empire came in, there were fights. Jewish people spread out. A lot of them went into Europe. A big marker in history is the Holocaust.
Yes.
Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler goes and he kills what's counted as 6 million Jewish people. And they fled, they asked for help. The British Empire, which was growing, it features a lot in this history, by the way, in deciding with the United Nations who gets to own this, we still speak about a piece of land.
Yes.
And they almost promised that you guys can have this piece of land with the United Nations. The Jewish people can have, because it's the only Jewish state in the world.
Yes.
I'm saying this specifically because a lot of Palestinians are Muslim, but you've got Saudi Arabia, you've got places like Iraq, Afghanistan, parts of Egypt. There are many other countries that identify as Muslim countries.
Yes.
Palestinians can't be like, this is our only piece of land, which is one of the arguments Jewish people have. They're like, bro, on the whole planet, this is the only piece we have, and we can trace it through history. So people have been fighting for this. And when you look at this piece of land, some of the research that I did was to figure out if we remove religious sentiments, if we remove the history, of which part of it is conflict, the reason Black South Africans hate white Afrikaners is because your forefathers killed my forefathers. And it's like, that's emotional.
Yes.
We need to look at South Africa as a piece of land today and say, what are we trying to do here? We understand what happened in the past. I mean, the hypocrisy is you've got Zulu people that love KwaZulu as a piece of land, but they don't want to speak about how many people were killed in that same conflict for territory. Anyways, I want to read this data because this was important to me. When you look at the piece of land, so it's split, Israel at the top, Palestine.
Yes.
And there's the Gaza Strip.
Yes.
The population of Israel today is at 9.3 million people. This is important for people around the world and South Africans to conceptualize, because when we speak about nations, we have this thought. If you're South African, when you hear of another country, you assume it's South Africa. When you hear of America, you assume it's not the same. America's got 300 million people. Nigeria's got 150 million. We've got 60 million people.
Yes.
I think Gauteng might have 12 million. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Israel has got 9.3 million people. So you're almost thinking of a population of, let's say, Gauteng, Johannesburg.
Even less. Yeah, Johannesburg.
Johannesburg.
The population
that's what
of
we're speaking
Johannesburg.
about. That's the population of Israel, of which part of that 9 million is 1.7 million Muslim people.
Part of the 9 million.
Part of the 9 million. So not all the 9 million are Jewish. There are people there who are citizens of Israel. I'm an Israeli. I believe in Allah. I read the Quran.
Yes.
By the way, Allah, for people that don't know, is God in Arabic.
Yes.
It is not the name of a god. It's not Zeus or Thor.
Yes.
It is language. It's in Zulu, uNkulunkulu. You can also add other Nguni languages like isiXhosa, uThixo, umvelqangi. It is words. It is a language for. So it's Arabic for God. It's not a name of a god.
Yes.
So there's 1.7 million. In Palestine, there's 4.9 million people. So 9 million in Israel, 4.9. So people need to understand that these people that are fighting for this piece of land, how many people are we speaking about? Because let's say, for example, there were 5 Jewish people in Israel and there were 20 million people in Palestine. You could be like, but this looks unfair.
Yes.
Where are all these people meant to live? This speaks about a South African context of where we're speaking about. There have been many lies about who owns the land, but the most popular one, which is not true, is 80% of the land is owned by white people in this country.
Yeah.
Then you're like, but white people are 8%.
How can 80% be owned by
8%? So
Yes.
then you're like, okay, let's speak about this just nature. Let's share. Then I went and I looked at the land size, because it's one thing to say 9.3 million and 4.9. What if the 9.3 million people are on a smaller piece of land than the Palestinians,
Yes.
who are more people? So I looked at the land, and I'm not going to give the numbers, but I will say in Israel, it's about 2,000 square meters per person. Just straight maths.
2,000
Square
square
meters.
meters per person in Israel for the 9 million people
For the 9 million people.
that live in Israel.
On average. So part of that land might be in the mountain. It might be rock.
Total land.
No one can live on it. Just total land. We're just doing basic numbers.
2,000 square meters per person.
Per person. Because
Okay.
it could be in the North Pole and there's ice.
Yes.
And you're like, look, we can't use most of this land.
Yes.
It's the Kalahari Desert. It's the Sahara Desert.
But
you can't tell us this is our land.
This is granular level data.
Just granular. Just for
Okay.
context and perspective. 2,000 square meters. An RDP house is 45 square meters. For people to conceptualize. 2,000 square meters. In Palestine, it's 1,000 square meters. So it's half.
Half in Palestine. And that's for
Per
4
person.
million people.
4.9 million. About 5
5 million people.
on average.
Okay.
So now, I raise this data for people to understand. Let's assume, which is not fair, but let's assume all of this land is workable.
Yes.
We can plant stuff, we can build houses. If in your nation, the average person has 1,000 square meters of land, is that unfair? Let's put aside who does Israel belong. Let's put that aside. Because this is the argument we give to black South Africans. Let's say white people are all like, you know what, we're sorry. We're going to speak to the British, we're going to speak to the Dutch, to the French. We're going to ask them if we can come home. You guys can have the land back. And then we say, okay, the land's back. And then we say to black people, this is how South Africa is spread out. Some of you guys must go live in the Northern Cape. Some of you in the Kalahari. Then they're like, no. You're like, but you said you wanted land.
Yeah.
No, we don't want that land. So which land do you want? 2,000 square meters per person in Israel, 1,000 square meters per person in Palestine. Palestinians want Israel, which means if they get it, they get more land per person.
Yes.
Whether they use it or not, if you live in a flat, it's like, what exactly are you going to do with the land? For perspective, again, for South African, we've got a population of 60 million people. Some people say 62 million now, but 60 million. And when you look at the amount of land we have, it comes down to 2 hectares per person. In South Africa, on average, we've got 10 times the amount of land that like an Israeli person has.
10 times.
And 20 times the amount of land per person on average. Again, this is not like real, but it's based on the land that we have. That's 2 rugby fields. A hectare is a rugby field.
Yeah.
So it's when South Africans comment on Israel and Palestine and pick sides, Palestinians stood with us during apartheid. Okay. There were a lot of Jewish people in South Africa that stood with the ANC, PAC, and other liberation movements and funded them and fought and marched. We had people that died, Jewish people in this country. To this day, we've got Jewish people that still fund the ANC, that have the biggest businesses that employ many South Africans. Jewish people in South Africa were not saying, oh, we stand with the apartheid government. Most of them were actually setting up businesses in the townships to make sure that they're part of the economy.
Yes.
Many of them were the first people, even with BEE, to say we are willing to share our companies with black people. So people need to understand that context. But when we speak about Israel and Palestine, some of us need to bring it back home and say, number one, do I have land? Because this is a fight about land. Do I have land? Does my family have land? If we have land, that's great. How did we get it? What are we doing with it? If you do not have land, why do you not have land? Is it because you don't have a job? Because land can be bought today. You don't have to kill anyone. Land could be bought. I don't know the legalities, but I would like to assume, I'm just assuming, A Palestinian person can go to Israel and buy land there, buy a house, buy a property, buy a farm.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm assuming. In South Africa, a black
Sounds
person
right.
can buy a farm, can buy a piece of land, etc. Am I not buying it? Did I not win in court fighting for land restitution? Because we've proven that my grandfather lived on the land. So the issue is now the courts and the ANC. Is the issue that this white family that settled there doesn't want to give the land back? They don't want to sell it. You might find that the white family that got theirs owned the land for 10 years. They also bought it. They weren't there when other white people came and took the land forcefully. So they also like, look, we don't know now because we've only been here for 10 years. We weren't there during apartheid or whatever the case may be. 2 hectares. That's not all the land. You might find that when we include land we cannot use.
Drakensberg, all this.
The deserts, rocky
Yes.
land, horrible land. Maybe it even goes down to like 5,000 square meters, maybe half a hectare per person.
Still a lot.
Do you even need that amount of land? Because what are you doing with it? Do you have the ability to farm, to develop property, to start a business? Because when we speak about land, we speak about it from an emotional perspective. And I believe even in Israel and Palestine, when people reference things like Abraham, that's 4,000 years ago. Do you really want to reference Abraham? Yes, that's where this started. Do you want to reference, because this is what you're speaking about now. I am an atheist. I might be Arab. I might be from a Jewish family, but, studied religion, theology. And I'm like, I think all of this is rubbish. This is just a way to divide people. I am atheist. What do I care about? I care about good people. Doesn't matter if they Arab, Christian. Christians owned a part of Israel-Palestine, by the way.
Yes.
There were crusades. Crusaders also killed a lot of Jewish people, which is why a lot of them fled as well, by the way. I'm trying to do good on this piece of land. Set up a business. I do charity work. Same thing happens with white people in South Africa. Same thing happens with other foreigners, including African foreigners in South Africa. The persons here, they've set up a business. They do charity. They donate to the church. They try to be friends with everyone. They even pick up the languages. Speak Zulu. I'm from Ghana, but I've learned your language.
Yes.
Speak a bit of Afrikaans. Hey, Khandet, ek praat Afrikaans, to try and get with the people. And then bombings like this occur by people who are extremist. And there's extremists on both sides.
Yes.
You've got extreme white Afrikaners. You've got extreme white English people who are the descendants of British colonizers. You've got extreme black people, of which people will be like Julius is, which he's not. They are real extreme black people who are saying things like white people should be killed in this country.
Yes.
Or not forcefully deported. Julius is not even saying that. So there are extremists who are like, let's fight. Fuck Odessa and the negotiated settlement. We must go to war. And there are people just trying to make this country work. And they end up being some of the innocent people. Because if you are biased and you are Jewish, you live in Israel, you're like, this belongs to our people, the Zionist people.
Yes.
You pick a side. If you are Muslim, Arab Muslim in Palestine, you're like, so many atrocities have been committed by Israel and they took our land. You can look at the history of how they've encroached on our land. So this is right. We are fighting fire with fire. That's why even in this country, and we've spoken about this,
Yeah.
when they hear about farm murders, there are black people that get excited on Twitter. And you're like, children were killed, bro. And it's like, do you know the children that were killed during apartheid? Do you care? I mean, Jordan Peterson tweets Netanyahu, who he had a sit down with, by the way. Netanyahu was explaining about the conflict and giving his biased view as well. Jordan Peterson tweets, give them hell. Enough is enough. And so many Muslim supporters of Jordan Peterson are now writing him off, canceling him. And it's like, this thing is so sensitive because everyone kind of picks where in history they want to start the story, where religiously they stand.
They stand.
Then there are people that come with ignorance. Guys, but war is wrong. And what about innocent people? It's like, do you know that all civilization we have today has been built on the back of war, and any little bit of privilege you have today, I get to sit and move in white spaces. What was white spaces? because Abo Solomon Mahlangu, Steve Biko, Chris Hani died. So when a white person's gonna come and tell me, bro, but war is wrong, I'm like, do you know that I'm sitting with you and I have the privilege of being in your white space because innocent people died? Do you know that you and I conversing in English is not because black people voted to speak English? It's because it was forced on us.
Yeah.
So when you're like, bro, I don't understand your language, why don't you just speak English? Because I'm like, do you know how condescending that is to me? And how it hurts me to my core. Like, there's an amazing gent. He upsets me at times because he's very pro renewable energy. I don't think he fully understands the context of the energy wars in the world. Nick Headley on Twitter. Amazing gent. Good-hearted. The tweets he's posting are so cute. You know, he's literally astonished by the hatred on social media. But guys, everything he posts, and I commented, I'm like, you're not going to win. He doesn't understand how human beings are wired. And that people will always defend what they feel is theirs, what looks like theirs, and what favors them. All logic and rationale and empathy go out the window. And Nick clearly has been living in some fantasy. Shame, I really love Musi Maimani. But guys like Musi Maimani, when they speak, there are people on either side who are just like, does this guy even understand like what's happening on the ground? Because he didn't wake up in a shack. And he's not in an education system where, because English was easy for him, he's like, just focus on your schoolwork. You're like, you understand my schoolwork is not in the language of my forefathers. And even the schooling system that you're speaking about, it's biased towards me going to work for a white, English, Afrikaans, American company. Do you get it? That there's like a hate in me where everything I look at, when I catch a taxi, I know it's a legacy of, and the ANC guys milk it. This is because of apartheid. And there are people that are like, look, yes, the ANC is corrupt and incompetent, but they're right. Why do you white people not want to say they're right? But yes, they're also corrupt and incompetent. Why do you say, come on, man, apartheid that was back then. You've been living in the suburbs, which we'll call Israel, since back then. I've had to work my ass off from Palestine, struggling, the townships, I have to work 5 times harder to get to what you think is just normal. Just call an Uber, bro. Why don't you you're like, what is basic to you? In my family, they celebrate and we pray in church because I'm the first person to have a degree or a diploma.
Good context.
Or to buy a house in your Israel, your suburb. So there's a huge lack of empathy. And every time you speak about this tweet, people that are ignorant of the history and the nuances, all of them get angry. It doesn't matter what you say. You could be like, guys, this is wrong. They're like, what's wrong? The killing of who? For what? No, just killing of innocent people. Yeah, but they killed us. And you're like, yo, but those women didn't do anything. But the children, you're like, well, you guys raped our women. Shut the fuck up. We have coloreds in South Africa because black women were raped. And you're like, yo, guys, I was just saying peace. Who are you to say peace? Your ancestors, we still want the land back. You're like, then black people speak. Then it's like, yeah, but your ANC is corrupt. And Julius Malema and can't win.
I've got a question. So, context is important, and you'll never get away from people taking sides. That's just how we wired.
It's human nature.
It's human nature.
Yeah.
And you just said it. Most privileges that me and you enjoy is due to war and conflict and murder. Okay. Having said that, this tension, at the moment, I don't see anything on the cards or in the news or anything close to a sit down, anything close to a ceasefire, anything close to let's open up negotiations and let's speak about this. It's been ongoing for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
It really escalated in the last couple of days. Here's my question. In your opinion, because we're just sharing opinions, How does this escalate from here what is best, what's good, bad, and ugly going forward. Best case scenario, worst case scenario. And, sometimes I live in a fairy tale world and I'll be a part of the people. I'm a person that's for peace.
Nick Headley and Musi Moimani.
I'm a person
Nelson Mandela.
that's for peace.
Yeah.
And I don't think an organization currently exists, whether it's UN, you can name them all. They all have agendas.
Correct.
But is there a resolution where both parties accept ownership of things and there is a middle ground where at least the rockets and the killing of people stops in the next couple of days or weeks, in your opinion?
Can I swing it back?
Hoi.
We sat down, me and you, and we spoke about if you were a leader for a day or a week in South Africa.
Sure.
If you had to be part of, let's say, a United Nations Council where you're the head and it's a tie. There's a nice English word for it, man. You had a stalemate.
So my
and they're like,
intention
Bobby,
was to hoe it to you, and now you're hoeing it back to me.
And they're like, Bobby, look, you're the decider, man. The leaders of Palestine, the leaders of Israel are here now, and they're saying, look, we're all ready. We've written on paper. We're ready to accept whatever Bobby decides. What would be your decision?
No, that one's above my pay grade.
Are you scared to answer? As a person who wants peace?
Let me attempt.
Please.
Having said in the beginning that everybody is picking sides. So let me start off with faith. Okay, with faith. I heard something the other day, and it's by a guy that I really, really respect, PBD. So
Patrick Bet David.
Yes.
The best podcaster in the world right now.
Yes.
Not the biggest, the best.
The best. I agree. So he said he was an atheist for a long time. He's been to Jewish gatherings. He's got a lot of Muslim friends. I do as well. I've got a lot of Jewish friends. I've got a lot of Muslim friends. And for the longest time, he didn't believe in God, and he just carried on, and he served a God of women. So
hey,
everybody,
that's a good God, that.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Well,
I'm kidding.
So everybody serves a God. So some people serve a bottle, some people serve a needle, some people serve what are those slot machines? So but yeah. You serve a God.
The biggest God today is money, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and for the longest time he was confused, and he didn't know what the hell is going on. Then one day he woke up and he said, okay, he's looking at religion on faith. So I have to believe in my heart that there is a God, because we can't all be here running around doing these crazy things while the earth is spinning and moving at how many miles an hour while everything else is rotating. I mean, it's mad if you look at actually what's going on. So I have faith that there is a God. He's Christian. He gave his life to God, and that's the path he's chosen to take.
Did he say this was just spontaneous?
Well, no. There's a story. Okay. There's a story.
Okay. Something sparked it.
Something sparked it. It was an interaction where one very early morning he was in tears, and his mom called him. She didn't even have his number, but he said, God, I need to speak to my mom right now. And they weren't speaking for a long time, and she called him out the blue. At that specific second, he only spoke about it once, and it's difficult to find that piece of content, but that sparked it. So, and other things later on that made him choose that path. A very good pastor that he met, and all the other previous pastors that he went to, were selling him a message to say, you're going to hell, you're going to hell. He says, I know I'm going to hell. I've done all these horrible things. I've served women for the longest time. Yeah. But who's going to tell me how to get to heaven? Because that sounds like a good path to take. And eventually, it's Pastor Dudley, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. If I get the name wrong, I'm sorry. And he delivers a message one Sunday. So he's like, okay, that's a pretty cool message. I'll go again and again. And they become friends. And he marries him and Jennifer, his wife. And that's the path that he follows. So I believe in having faith that there is a God and we are here to serve a purpose, and we can change. We can be good, even if we haven't been good for a while. Now, looking at this holy ground, which is very small, it's actually tiny compared to South Africa, and all the history pinpointing at this year, this land belongs to us because of XYZ. Yes, but if you rewind 500 years back, it actually belongs to us of XYZ. And another thing that I'm going to say, you can't really trust history all that much.
Why not?
Because it depends who reported it.
Hey.
So you can't really trust history. I'm going to prove it, because if you listen to CNN,
correct,
they're gonna tell you this is a fact, and then you listen to Fox News or you listen to another channel, it's like 180. Like, shit, how can there be two facts on one subject?
Al Jazeera, the Russian news network.
RT, yeah. So you can't really trust history and be subjective. You put all those leaders. This is what I would want. You put all those leaders in a room and you cease fire. Nobody gets hurt until that door is open again. And everybody voices their opinion. But here's the tricky part. This is why I say it's above my pay grade. Is there a UN or a organization that will assist in a middle ground? Because then you're going to upset both. But some sort of a middle ground without having a agenda of their own. And I think the complexity lies in that. And I think the answer is no. So this is a conflict that I don't think can be resolved easily.
So what's your vote, Bobby? Israel and Palestine are waiting.
I want to be in the room.
Huh? You're running away.
I'm running away out of this one.
This guy.
Okay, let me swing it back to you.
I'm just trying to zoom into the size. So I'm just looking at a map, and I encourage anyone who's going to see this to go on, if you have Google Maps or if you just have like a map app. So just go and look at the map of South Africa. Look at the map of South Africa and then like slide up Africa and then zoom into like Israel and Palestine, just to get a context of
it's tiny.
How much land we're speaking about. Like
it's tiny.
How little this piece of land is. Above your pay grade. Now, if I answer it, it's going to be as if like I'm paid now to say these things. You know, one of the things I say to Zulu people, as a person who was part of the Zulu kingdom, and my family is Zulu, and I have a Zulu heritage, when people speak about the Jewish community, and the Jewish community is polarizing, and they know it, and that's why they've set up these things called anti-Semitism, so that when people say bad things, never again, online, somewhere, Jewish people, they unite, they organize to try and shine a spotlight on that person, someone like Kanye West.
Yes.
To be like, we condemn what you're saying, and if we can, we'll punish you in some way, so that this doesn't, even though it's a spark, it doesn't become a Nazi Germany gas chamber. Because it starts with a little guy giving a nice speech about how Jewish people are a problem.
Yes.
And Jewish people understand that, which is something that I think many black people don't understand.
Because they've lived through it.
They've lived through it.
And it wasn't like it was yesterday.
Correct. So Kanye West has tried to explain that, even though he was misunderstood as well. It was part of the hypocrisy, which was interesting. Kanye West was trying to shine a mirror to Jewish people to say, when a black person does something, or in a group of black people, like the ANC, white people will say, yeah, but look at this black government. Like, why don't you point them out who it is?
Yeah.
If I say, but Jews are corrupt, or why are you guys saying, why don't you point out who are?
Yeah,
you guys don't offer us the same
Jimmy
courtesy.
Or Johnny or
Correct.
Whoever. Yes.
And part of that was Kanye also raising this concept of black people need to understand that they should also have a never again stance. It shouldn't be, I mean, there was a story, I think, at Tux of the AfriForum youth who put up these posters saying whites only or on whites not allowed, I think something like that, to show issues with what they feel is going on at Tux. This idea of saying, we won't allow this. As a Zulu person, or as a person who used to be Zulu, Jewish people are very influential. They invest a lot in their education. There's an over-subscription, over-representation of Jewish people in spaces of finance, banking, the legal space, even in this country, media, even spaces like hip-hop. That's where they catch a lot of their criticism. And an amazing South African rabbi, I think it was explaining that no one complains about, he's like, it's true. If you look at the Forbes lists, and
yes,
Jewish people are overrepresented. And he was saying it's because we actually put in effort to be good. We want to be lawyers and accountants.
Is
and
that
bankers.
a bad thing?
No. That's what he was basically saying. And he was contrasting with black people in America are a minority. And they are overrepresented in the NBA and in football. And no one complains. Of course, they've got a history of slavery and he's like, the same way black people in America put in effort in basketball and football, and obviously genetically they have an advantage. We also put in effort. If black people put in effort and they're like, we've got to focus on maths and science and accounting,
yes,
their children will become, I mean, you look at places like Limpopo,
yes,
where the kids are brilliant academically, if you put in a focus. Going back to Israel and the world at large. In South Africa, we've documented 70,000 Jewish people, of which some of the biggest companies, Discovery, Bidvest, Aspen, big companies.
Huge.
That fund political parties, that do a lot of charity work, that have built a lot of infrastructure outside of their companies, that create jobs. And some of the coolest people, some of the coolest CEOs, Adrian Gore, Brian Joffe, Nati Kirsch, these are dope gents.
Yes.
You sit with them, you listen to them, their stories are sizzling. 70,000 in South Africa. You've got 16 million Jewish people around the world. 16 million. There are 12 million Zulus. I need to contrast this so people can understand how few Jewish people there are. We're not talking 60 million South Africans. We are talking all Jewish people.
Worldwide.
16 million are just 4 million more than Zulus.
16.
Yes,
16.
16. Which means if they were more organized, Zulus could be as influential as Jewish people.
Makes sense.
They could go to America and run media and hip hop, and they could build big. It is possible. For context, not all Arabs are Muslim. Some of them are Christian.
Yes.
I don't know if any of them are Jewish. Probably not. They could be Christian, they could be atheist, they could be Buddhist, they could be Hindu, for example.
Yes.
But there's 464 million of them. It's a lot of Arabs. 164.
Okay.
Arabs.
It's a big number.
Now, Jewish people identify not only as a religious group, but almost as a nation or a race.
Yes.
So it's beyond, it's not just, I'm a Zulu South African or Zulu Christian South African.
Got you.
They will be like, I'm Jewish in my belief and I'm Jewish in, you'll say race Jewish. Maybe not white, maybe kind of situation. They've intertwined culture, religion, being. So Arabs, being Arab doesn't make you Muslim.
Yes.
Contrary to what a lot of people would think. So that's part of the ignorance. 464 million Arabs. Multiples more than Zulus, multiples more than Jewish people. There are 1.8 billion Muslim people in the world.
1.8 billion.
So not all Arabs are Muslim, but there are so many non-Arabs that are Muslim. Blacks, Africans.
Yes.
White people. People don't even know this. They are white Muslims.
Lots.
Indian. So Indian is not Arab.
Indian is not Arab.
That's also,
yes.
It's because we don't know.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I'm starting off these numbers, 16 million Jews, 12 million Zulus. The Zulus, the bulk of them are in KZN, KwaZulu,
yes.
Natal.
Yes.
Jewish people, we've already said 9 million in Israel, but let's say maybe 7 million are Jewish. So the other 9 million are everywhere else.
All over the world.
Yeah, 7 million. 7 million in Israel. So imagine Israel is KZN.
It's 1% of how many Jewish people live in South Africa. 70,000, you gave the number.
So imagine that Israel is like KZN, basically. And there's 7 million, there's 10 million Zulu people here. And then Arabs are spread. Saudi Arabia and
US, everywhere.
Everywhere. And then there's Muslims everywhere. In this country, in America, Nigeria, I think, is 50% Muslim, 50%
Yes.
Christian, etc.,
Yes.
etc. When we started this conversation about Israel and Palestine, I went back to the world is just a piece of land. And many times when politicians are politicking or tricking people into their rubbish.
Politricking. I like
Yeah.
that word. I'm going to use it. Politricking.
When politicians are doing their political rubbish, when certain interest groups for economic purposes, for religious purposes are doing their rubbish, they obfuscate. Oh, see, my English is top way. They obfuscate, they distract people from the issues. Outside of the sentiments of the Jewish faith and Islam and the Ottoman Empire and the Christian Crusades and the Nguni people and the Khaleds and the Xhosas and the Khoi and San and the Dutch people and the British colonialists and the Portuguese settlers and the Germans and the Spaniards in America and the indigenous people of America and the Latinos. And outside of all those sentiments, we're speaking about land. And the first thing, if we were to get into a room for sitting with Israel and Palestine, is to ask them, are you guys fighting over land? Because if we say to Palestine, guys, we've looked at the piece of land, it's tiny. So we're going to negotiate with the Israelis. We're going to give you guys, Israel can have it, a small piece of KZN. And then we're going to take these Israelis and we're going to give them the most fertile land in America, in Europe, in Africa. It's going to be 10 times the size of what they have now. They will have 5-10 hectares each. Are you guys fine? Is that okay with you? And if some of the Palestinians are like, no, why are they getting good land? You're like, so the issue is not land.
What if they say, yes, we're fine?
If they say, yes, we're fine, then we can discuss something else. Now we have to speak to the Israelis and ask them, is this about land? Are you guys fighting over land, or is there something unique? Well, this is holy land. So the issue now is no longer land, and it's specific something, which means the issue is the specific something. What is the specific something? Is it that whole piece of land, or is it like a monument, or is it a... And if both of them aggressively refuse to accept, as a parent, Bobby and Vince are fighting over the coffee. I'm like, you know what? None of you are having it. This is going to be United Nations land. We're going to own it as the rest of the world. We're going to dictate what happens on this land. Israelis are going to be shifted to here. You as the Jewish people have lived in other places. We will make sure you're in comfortable spaces. You as Palestine, not only are you not going to get Israel, you're not even going to have Palestine either. And we'll give you a piece of land somewhere, because it's clear that you guys don't want to play along together. But because there's land here, and if it's about land, we want to make sure that of the 2,000 squares per person, 1,000 squares per person, we're going to shift land so that every Palestinian has 1,500 squares and every Israeli has 1,500 squares. All of you have an equal amount of land. No, that's not what we want.
Yeah.
Then that means you don't want land. You want something else. And since you guys can't share, we're taking all of that and the rest of the world, let's call it a World War III. We're going to bring all our guns and we're going to tell all of you to futek off that land. And it is now going to be holy land for the world, and no one will be allowed to live on it. And you guys can live everywhere else. Egypt can go to the Middle East, etc. And you can't have that land. It's KZN. We're going to ring fence it. As far as I know, Israel-Palestine doesn't have gold, platinum, coal. It's not like they're the biggest farming nation on the sentiments are mostly symbolic. And I'm saying, as the authority figure, if you guys don't want to have peace and share, and in the sharing, this is now also what's going to become controversial. Romeo and Juliet, what used to happen in Africa when tribes were fighting. I'm going to give my son, you're going to give your daughter. Or you're going to give your son, I'm going to give my daughter. And we're going to have Arab Muslims and white Jewish people, and they're going to be in arranged marriages. And if we're giving you a piece of Israel, we're going to give it to you on condition that our son, our daughter, is marrying one of your children on that piece of land. And in exchange, you must also give us a piece of Israel, and we're sending our child there to go and live with your child so that it's their joint piece of land. And we're going to integrate aggressively. And if you guys are going to keep this, I'm Jewish and both of you can't have the land. We're taking all of you away from the land because it's clear that you're not serious. That would be my decision.
Can I challenge the decision?
Please go for it.
So that's that's one way to look at it. I'm going to look at it that way and say, okay, now you bring in allies, but Israel has got allies that are connected to this and this country, which is mighty and powerful. Palestinians have allies that are connected to these countries, which are also mighty and powerful. We don't agree with this decision.
Yes.
Now we're going to bring along friends.
Sure. Who do you think's got more powerful friends? Just as an interest.
I don't know.
I mean, it looks like America's siding with Israel.
Yes.
And America's arguably got the strongest military in the world.
Arguably.
I mean, I think they spend the most money. They don't have as many soldiers as China.
Yeah.
They have advanced weapons. Maybe if you were to combine China and Russia, I'm not sure. Maybe they could challenge the might of. And America's got over 600 military bases in different countries.
Yes.
Whereas other countries don't have that privilege.
Yes. Man, I'm getting a headache just thinking about this.
Yeah.
It's very complex.
Can I go on a tangent?
Yeah.
One of the more controversial views that I have, because I said the world is a piece of land, is I believe that human beings are just animals. We're no different to an elephant, a lion, a rhino, a dog, a cat. And I believe that we cannot own land. You can't own it. I mean, when you die, it's still there.
Yes.
But I think you can have control over and influence over what happens on that land.
Agree.
Could be building a house. It could be digging up some gold, some diamonds. It could be putting up a nice casino like Saul Kirzner. You get to influence based on various forms of tools or various tools that you use.
Either
of which the most popular one is violence.
Violence.
But there's biological warfare, there's psychological warfare, propaganda, there's economic warfare, we call it sanctions.
Yes.
The best one now is propaganda, because people are like, look, violence is not good. Everyone is sort of like, look, violence is bad. So what happens is people then use the media as weapons for propaganda.
Yes.
Say, but look at what they've done to the people of Palestine. You know, it's wrong. That's colonization. They forced them off the land. It's like South Africa. It's like apartheid. And you're like, okay, who told you that? When and why? Do you know the history?
Do you view that as being more powerful than actually knowing that I've got X amount of nuclear weapons that are ready and I can point them at you? Is it more powerful? Because I think it is.
Propaganda, psychological warfare, what Yuval Noah Harari says is languages, stories and language, narratives, has the ability to start and end wars, has the ability to make a gun powerless, has the ability to shift the gun from wanting to kill a white Afrikaner to wanting to kill a black Zimbabwean because someone has told you this person is worse than that one.
Yes.
So it is extremely powerful. And it's how a tiny guy, short guy like Jacob Zuma, gets to influence and control the biggest, strongest, mightiest black warriors in the country. It's that. But at the end of the day, going back to being animals, after all the talk, it is actually on who can inflict the most pain. America, China, and Russia, as examples, are not ignorant in the power of, let's call it the gun. That's why they invest so heavily in it. And trust, all three of them, maybe not so much Russia, but China and America as examples, they invest a lot of money in propaganda. America invests in propaganda internally and in the rest of the world.
Agree.
We love Hollywood movies and.
Agree.
Everyone wants to have a McDonald's burger and I want the Air Jordans and, it's all American propaganda. China focuses its propaganda on China, but that's because they have numbers.
Yes.
1.3, 1.4 billion people. America only has 300 million, so they almost have to win other people over to try and have an equal 1.4 billion.
Join their crusade. Yes.
Join the thing. But at the end of the day, like, we can have an argument and you can out-argue me and convince everyone else that you're right. Which I think is one of the issues white people have with Julius. White South Africans can't out-argue Julius. And they can't out-propaganda him to black people. There is no one white person that I'm aware of that has the ability to sit on a platform. He doesn't have to debate. Speak to black South Africans and have black South Africans be like, yeah, Chris Papas was right. This Julius guy is talking shit. So propaganda is important. And I think that's also why your AfriForums and other white groups will say things like, we need to arm ourselves because, you know, you might have people attacking us because they can't. They've taken him to court. As an example.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, it's like after everything's happened, even with the British, when the National Party and the guys were fighting, it's like, at the end of the day, Papa, you need to have your gun. And you know what white Afrikaners, because white Afrikaners are, I think they're my favorite group of white people in South Africa.
Okay.
The Jews, unfortunately, come second. White Afrikaners are not big on propaganda and psychology and debating, and they're not that type of people as a general. They're big on practical. Let's work. Roll up your sleeves. What's wrong? Let's fix it. When the guys like, let's say us ANC educated clever blacks, we want to sit and have a committee and a discussion. Let's negotiate. So what do you, Penel's got the great, we talk. While we're talking, Afrikaners are in the farm. While we're talking, Afrikaners are mining. While we're talking, Afrikaners are cutting grass and fixing the road. They are doers. They get very angry, and it's one of the reasons I think they hate British people, pommies. British people are good with the mouth, boy. They chat. Yeah, but look, my man, you know what? It's like, hey, shut up. I don't like you. You're about to hit your sarcasm and innuendos. I know you sneaky bastard. They're like, let's solve the thing.
Yes.
So they like, if he's talking shit, murum in die gezicht, bro, because I don't know what he's saying. Because I think he's up to some dodgy shit.
Yes.
And you're like, why? He was just talking nonstop and he was using big words near. I don't get it. And you're like, okay. I think violence is the ultimate language, tool of communication when what you're saying doesn't work. And what Russia is doing now, and arguably what Palestine with Hamas is doing, they're trying to tell the world, and look, it is a media propaganda thing. They're like, guys, we've tried to talk. You guys are not listening. We sit at the tables. Like, for how long must we march and talk? Oh, as soon as we bomb Israelis, everyone goes crazy. Wow. Farm murders, white genocide. And then you look at the data and it's 54. And black people are like, you bastards. Some of them will be like, kill more farmers. And you're like, you can't say that. Those are innocent. It's like, you guys are not listening to us. Do you know how many people get killed at the Cape Flats every week? Do you know how many political killings are in KZN? Do you know how many black people are dying every day? You guys have never, News 24, CNN have never gone on a rampage to be like, there are black people dying every day in South Africa. There's a war there. It is so bad. No one. And all of us must stop. Because Umkwe somewhere was killed and no one cares about my uncles who were gunned down last week. You will not hear anything from me. And people don't get it. Because they're like, but guys, this is wrong. Barack Obama condemns. The Rock is... I can only imagine the number of, I think he's Samoan, or he's a Hawaiian. He's got Polynesian heritage.
Yes.
Him and Jason Momoa. I can imagine some of those people there being like, this f***ing sellout. Does he understand what's happened in Australia where the Aborigines were almost completely wiped out? What's happened in New Zealand with the Maori people, and for him to come and condemn things he doesn't know. Why does he not speak out and tweet every week about how the British colonized and almost wiped out our people? But because he's earning nice fat Hollywood dollars now, it's bad. Shut up. Barack Obama and his half black heritage. Why is he not speaking out about what's happening in the DRC? What's happening in Sudan? America with Joe Biden have been bombing. This is not in the news. They've been bombing Somalia. How many people have died in Somalia because of American military exercises? But the whole world must stop. And the people that know this, because it's not popular, get so angry. So angry. And then little black boy in South Africa is like, what's happening? Israel is so wrong. It's like, you're a idiot. You don't even know what the fuck is happening in this world. Your own family members are dying every day and you've never even tweeted. But because American media, European media, so loud, you become an ambassador. Here I am in the streets.
You've been recruited.
1976, my favorite story. We don't want Afrikaans. We don't want Afrikaans. The media is coming to interview. Hello, what's this guy's name? Hector Peterson.
Yeah.
Hello, Hector. What's going on? Look, we don't want to speak Afrikaans. And someone is there at home thinking, why is this boy speaking English? Why has this boy never marched against English? Why is he only marching against this one language? He's not speaking his language. It's like, it's the weirdest shit. Like, Nelson Mandela Day, 18 July. Oh, okay, so Nelson Mandela died 18 July. When's your grandfather's birthday? Oh, I don't know. You're more invested in a man you don't know than your own.
Hence I say the power of propaganda is, in my opinion, 100 times more powerful than any atom weapon.
But that's why the atom weapons, I'm saying, when people are tired of the propaganda,
they resolve to
Kim
that.
Jong-un.
Yes.
And again, this is one of the things the media won't say, because we're mostly Western media.
Yes.
Kim Jong-un doesn't want to sit down because he knows the game. It's like, we will bomb you. No, but let's speak. The people of North Korea, focus on your people.
Yes.
Leave my people alone. Same thing with China. They're like, we don't want Google here. But hey, Google makes my life easy. That Google is here to collect our data. It listens to our people. We don't want Facebook products here, Meta and WhatsApp. That you're like, bro, this doesn't even make sense. That's stupid. It's just WhatsApp. It's not. They understand it. And they're like, you come close here, we will bomb you. Because after the lions have sat and tried to, it's the lion that's been putting in work at the gym with the sharpest teeth and claws that wins. And America understands that after all the propaganda has failed, we've got 600 military bases, we've got firepower, we've got NATO, we've armed Ukraine, we'll arm whoever needs to be armed to make sure that they're fine. After everything's said and done, like Steve Biko was a really smart guy. Stephen Bantu Biko was probably one of the greatest minds we've had in this country, along with Robert Sobukwe, Mangaliso. This country could have benefited so much and moved forward. And I do believe the people that got them killed, I mean, Robert Sobukwe was isolated, like in North Korea, but not by choice. He was the only prisoner in Robben Island who was isolated, who lived alone and no one could speak to him.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He was the founder and the leader of the PAC. He was almost pro-apartheid in the sense that he believed in black self-determination. He was saying, black people want to do for themselves, leave us alone. Whereas the ANC was like, look, we want to work together, etc., etc. He wasn't an extremist, in my opinion, like Eugene Terblanche, who was like, we want the Vrystaat, the Transvaal, then the blacks can have everything else. But he was like, we want to do for ourselves. He was isolated. Stephen Bantu Biko, if you read the book, I Write What I Like, you realize how hyper intelligent he was, because he was able to play, I'll call it the British. He was able to play the British at their own game. And it's something that I've learned over time, because white people have got unintended racism and condescension they're not aware of. And they are very patronizing in how they speak, whether they're aware of it or not. I have white friends who will send me messages and be like, Pen, I can't believe you said that. I thought you were better than that. I'm disappointed in you.
In what context?
Which is meant to make me feel bad. And like, no, maybe I made a mistake. I go back and I'm like, I thought you were better than that. Disappointed in you. Bobby, do better, man. Shit. Thought you were smart, bro. Bro, how does that make you feel? Stephen Bantu Biko could do that in court with a white lawyer coming at him. What Julius did with the white magistrate recently. The lawyer will come with the condescension and he'll take it. He'll smile and laugh. Jacob Zuma would laugh it off, which pissed people off because he's not even engaging. You are so irrelevant, he will laugh, which means you are a joke to him, which will, John Steenhuisen and the DA boy, he just laughs. Like, because he thinks you're a joke. He won't even debate us. And you're like, no, he won't, because you are nothing to him. And that's upsetting. And that's what some white people do when they speak to black people. They speak down on. Because all they know is a black maid, a black gardener, the father's black employees. So when you come through and you speak to him, and you're like, Bobby, look, just get me a coffee there, bro. Can't send me. Like, but you send my mom. Like, I don't understand. I'm your manager. You report to me. Fuck, BE and affirmative action. Oh, so I don't deserve to be here, is what you're saying. After all is said and done, and this is why the ANC set up Umkhonto weSizwe with Nelson Mandela, and this is why the PAC set up IAPLA. They were like, we've tried. CODESA didn't happen because people were like, let's sit and negotiate. It was because the guys who were saying, you guys refuse to sit and negotiate. I mean, there've been how many talks between Israel and Palestine? How many sit-downs? How many handshakes? It's like nothing's happening. Why are we talking now? Why are you suggesting talking now? Because Hamas bombed.
Yeah, because we bombed.
It's the only reason. Do you know that last week we tried to sit? Do you know we sent emails to Netanyahu? Do you know we were sitting? You don't know and you don't give a f***. You give a f*** now because we bombed. When you hear that Umkhonto weSizwe is coming with weapons, hey, hey, FW is like, hey, look, let's Clem Santa go speak to Nelson. Let's see if we can, let's have CODESA. Let's talk it out. Like, come on. Who needs violence? Who needs violence? We can talk it out. We've been asking to talk. You refused.
Where do you think this conflict goes in the next week, 4 weeks, 2 months? Because it could, here's my point of view. If people don't keep a level head right now, high up people, prime ministers, presidents, heads of state, if they don't keep a calm level head right now, this can spiral out of control in minutes, in my opinion.
Can I say something also controversial?
Hoi.
And I apologize.
No, it's unapologetic talks.
Oh, shit. Jewish people are very passionate about being Jewish and they're very patriotic to Israel. And Palestinians, Muslim Palestinians are very patriotic to Palestine.
True believers, both sides.
Yeah. And a lot of Muslim people are very sympathetic towards Palestine. And a lot of people who have Jewish friends, business associates, family, etc., they're sympathetic. 9.3 million plus, let's say 9 plus 5 is 14 million people in a world of 8 billion. And like I said, we're talking about a piece of land the size of KZN. It is not the DRC. It doesn't have cobalt, doesn't have platinum, coal. The conflict in Israel and Palestine and the reason why it's lasted for so long is because it's not that important. That piece of land is not that important. Whoever wins does not shift how the world works. Versus if Russia becomes powerful. Versus if China becomes powerful. That shifts the world. If Israel takes over Palestine, are we going to see something change? Not really. If Palestine takes over Israel, do we see a shift? These are small groups. I mean, if Zulus take over the Eastern Cape, if Xhosas take over KZN, and they kill each other, that's why they sit at the UN and they try to broker resolutions, but it's not like we've got hundreds of billions of dollars invested in those countries where we're so passionate. We're not. The Jewish people who are based in America, as an example, they are passionate about Israel. They're like, that's my home. So they will try and get America to care. But America's like, bro, we're worried about Russia. And China's eating us for breakfast. So on a scale of priorities, Zuma was such a he was a mosquito. It's like Zuma, Malema, are they really important? Are they trying to get black people to rise up? But send Cyril, man. Go fix shit there. And we need our gold. We need our coal to come to us as cheaply as possible. It's just sort it out. It is not that big a deal, in my opinion. And many lives could be lost. And already now, again, controversial. I say this with the deepest empathy because I understand losing my dad, losing my daughter. It is my whole world. My whole world. What is 1,000 people? What is 1,000 people? I mean, how many people are dying, like I said, in South Africa? As South Africans, if we're sending Cyril to go speak, do we want him to send our South African army and to take our resources and worry about 1,000 dead people in Israel and Palestine? Or would we prefer for him to worry about farm murders, violence at the Cape Flats, taxi violence, domestic violence here? In America, same. They've got school shootings. They had racist incidents. What is actually that important? And like I said, whether we resolve it or not, if something changes in Israel and Palestine, does it really have a big effect on the world? Do they have nuclear weapons? Do they have mineral resources? The truth is they don't. And that is the reason, in my opinion, all the leaders you're talking about, they don't really care. They don't really care about what's happening there. And that's why they haven't cared since 1948 and before that.
Got you.
Anything left from your side?
No. On your point, there's a big uproar because I think I'm also, a little bit hooked on American politics, especially now.
Yeah.
With the elections coming up. But there's a big uproar from a certain group in America to say, we're spending all this money on Ukraine. It's taxpayers' money. But if you drive down the streets of Los Angeles, me and you that grew up on Hollywood movies, you think Los Angeles is this, the movie that first comes to mind was Eddie Murphy's movies. He would be driving a nice car and he's a cop and then it's palm trees and
Beverly Hills Cop.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it's all these clubs and it's all lacquer. But if you look at what it looks like now, it's poverty, people living on the streets, kilometers, hundreds of kilometers worth of tents, homeless people, drugs.
Those are the visible people, by the way.
Poverty. And the American people are saying, you're spending all this money on Ukraine and it's taxpayers' money. Why is it not refocused on our people, helping our people first? Now, I'm not going to take a side and say it's wrong to help people, but there's always, governments have big agendas. And,
sure.
And it's almost never the livelihoods and the lives of innocent people.
Correct.
It's never it's always about money or leverage or, we as normal people think of, if you're playing chess, our first 2 or 3 moves. I like what you say. Boy, those people are thinking about move number 17 already while you're waking up.
Have you been to Cape Town lately?
No. I went. The last time I went was with the Sevens
when was that?
World Cup. I think it was last year. Sevens World Cup.
AfriForum, and I'm not sure who else, called out Naledi Pandor at the time when she wanted to send 50 million rand to Cuba to help. And they were like, we've got poverty here.
Send it here. Send it this way.
Are you mad? We've got poverty here. If you go to Cape Town, I think it's by Greenpoint. There's a portion there near the Shell garage where there's tents now. Closer to, I don't know if it's Naspers or Absa on the other side.
I saw that.
You've seen that? That's why I was asking. That. On the highway, when you're driving out, there's some tents on the side.
Yeah, there's like a whole community.
So now I'm imagining over time, what you're saying about Los Angeles, they increase. And you're like, if you're in Cape Town, you see the tents. That's why I said that's what you can see. Because Cape Town is not the city. Cape Town is Mitchell's Plain, Gugulethu,
Yes.
Nyanga. Imagine, I don't know, by the way, I've never been to LA. Imagine how much poverty is outside of view
Outside of view. Yeah.
in LA.
Good context. Going to what you said on China and Russia. Putin, true believer. He's a true believer.
Yeah.
It's Russia first. And China same.
Yeah.
I think and by no means am I comparing Donald Trump to Putin or the leader of China, but I think the American people currently are attracted to that America first.
Correct.
America first. So let's fix whatever the is going on here. Let's fix this. We're not going to worry too much about there. Let's fix here. In a selfish way, it's not a bad thing, because for the longest time they've been 600 plus military bases all over the world.
Yeah.
They've been crapping in everybody's salad, but you know the kitchen is dirty. The kitchen is filthy. Clean your kitchen, and forget about the other people's salads. That maybe that will get him elected next time around. Do you think he gets elected?
No one loves getting into their neighbors' businesses like America and the British.
Yes.
And when you actually do the research, I don't even know if it's the British that are in America, because I sometimes wonder if it's British people running the politics in America. The British love getting involved everywhere. When you look at it historically, it's America today. Love Donald Trump.
Do you think he gets elected?
I wanted to ask you if you think there is a South African politician that is similar to Trump, Putin, Xi Jinping, who, when they speak, when they act, are like, it doesn't matter what we speak about, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, the West, BRICS. If it benefits the people of South Africa first, we do it.
Can I answer you this way? So I'll answer you this way. If one rises like a phoenix out of the ashes, I'll vote for him or her.
You're saying there's no one currently?
No.
They're worried about interest groups, locally or
there's
foreign.
Always agendas.
I really wanted Trump to win the last elections. So a Trump win, by the way, I need to say this because officially, a Trump win is not good for Africa or South Africa. It's not. So my admiration and love for Trump is not because I'm like, if Trump wins, South Africa will fuck that. Trump, I mean, he called Africa a shithole. And people got touched. I don't know why they got touched, because people know the poverty in Africa. He was saying what many people know and think, which is why we love him, because he's honest. Joe Biden, old, talking a lot of rubbish. I don't like Joe Biden, even for the American people. I love Trump for Americans. I love Putin for Russians. I love Xi for Chinese people. I wish Africa had leaders like that. I think Paul Kagame is for Rwandans currently. The type of leader who's like, I might cheat you out of a deal. I might exploit you. We might fight with you. But it's only because I really, really love my family. And you're like, I can't fault that. And honestly so. Don't pretend like, look, we'll help you. Just put my son there. And you're like, this is not about us.
No.
This is actually about your family. But you're pretending like, so that's important for me. So I wanted Trump to win because I think he's a great role model. And role models like that, in my opinion, even though Trump is not good for an Africa per se, he inspires young Africans to be like, I want to be like that.
I love that point, because me and you had on our group chat a conversation around who is the role models of our children today and young people, and who did I look up to versus who do people look up to today? You know, there's Instagram and all these other apps, but who do I resonate to? I resonate to a guy that says, this is my opinion. Might not be popular. You don't need to agree with my opinion, but it's my opinion, and I stand for this, and I'm going forward with this mental state, which is Trump, which is I'm all in on America first. Let's make America great again. So I love the fact that you said this could inspire the phoenix coming out of the ashes in South Africa that says, you know what, you want to come and do what here? Nuclear. Okay. You want to do nuclear. And in exchange for what? This and this. No.
Sure.
We're not giving you this. We can only give you a piece of this if this happens first.
Sure.
Okay. I'm not giving you this, then potentially this will happen. This happens now, and you're getting a very small percentage,
Sure.
where the upside is for South Africans. You know, that's the leader we need.
The number of Africans that are inspired by China and Russia, that's what a Trump would do. And look, this is going to be a weird thing to say, but the reality is most of the world loves a great America, including China and Russia. It's one of those situations where you want New Zealand rugby to be at its peak. You want Brazilian football to be at its peak. And you want to work your ass off to beat them. So that when you do beat them, everyone looks at you like, you guys beat America.
You're a legend, yes.
But now if America's weak and watered down, we love America strong, but we also like an honest America, where Trump is saying, this is what we're about. And we're like, okay, we know what we're dealing with here.
Yes.
You know, the Springboks are like, we're going to maul you and we're going to destroy you. And you're like, okay. The Boca, they don't pretend like, look, we're thinking, no.
We're going to kick a bit. No, we're going to come and break you.
Coming through. And you're like, so when people play the Springboks and if they beat them, they're happy. They're like, yo, we beat the mighty Springboks. If you're beating a weak Springbok side, people are like, even New Zealand now with the World Cup, sorry for raising this. As much as they don't look great, people want them to be great so that when they do beat them, because that's what they want.
Yes, they want to beat New Zealand.
They want to beat. So I think that's important. I'd love for Trump to win. And I need to add this because, again, propaganda is so powerful. Trump had a good relationship with Putin.
Yes. Very.
This is a guy who's like, I'm putting America first. And when he goes to sit with Putin, he says, for the American people.
Yes.
Trump had a good relationship with the leaders of the Middle East.
Yes.
They put on a great show for him. Trump had an issue with China. So let's not pretend there.
Yes.
Trump went and met with Kim Jong-un.
Yes.
In North Korea, something that had never happened.
Yes.
This is a guy who had a plan. We want to build a wall between us and Mexico. I mean, the South Africans that speak about Zimbabweans and foreigners, build a wall. We want to make America great, but in making America great, Americans need to go back to work. And if it means you're going to earn peanut wages, because we can't keep creating jobs in China and in Mexico. We're the ones creating jobs for them, and our people are not working. Fuck that. We need leaders like that in this country who are going to be like, fuck minimum wage, fuck labor laws. You guys want jobs? You're going to work. You're not going to earn much, but you will have a decent life.
Yes.
The roads will be fixed. The taxis will be fine. The buses will work. The trains will work. It's not going to be comfortable. For China to get to where it got to, it was not comfortable. It was very bumpy. For the Soviet Union to break up and Russia to become great, it wasn't lacquer. For America to become great, they had slaves. They exploiting the Mexicans. It's not great, boy. But we're going to put in the work. And I'm telling you, at the end of the day, when we become Dubai and you guys are like, oh, we live great. And you want to be like, but there was that bad patch of Penwell when I'm going to say, you're welcome. I know I'm the bad guy, but it was because of me. Fuck you guys, but you're welcome.
Do you think, well, it's a straightforward, I know you're going to say yes, but do you think, I'm going to answer before I ask you, but in my mind, I know that Putin and the leader of North Korea, Kim, and the leaders of the Middle East, because those are proper alpha males.
Yeah.
Had a good relationship with Trump because they knew he was an alpha male.
This is one of ours.
He's one of us.
Yeah.
He's a lion. We can coexist, but you know, he like me has to be caged because he's still a lion. So as much as I'm gonna confront, I'm gonna be cautious, and I'm gonna think 70 moves ahead before I disrespect him and before I do something. There's a thing that I saw of him that if I know nothing else about Trump and I only saw that piece of content, it's like 17 seconds, I'll vote for him. So the Prime Minister of France woke up one morning and said that as from today, effective immediately, he will lift some sort of a tax by 10% on all American-owned businesses in France.
He will lift, remove.
Yes. So
he will
if
launch.
if the tax is, let's say, 20%,
Okay.
effective immediately, it will be 30%.
Okay. He's going to make it harder for American businesses.
Yes.
Okay.
So the moment that he saw that, what Donald Trump did is he picked up the phone immediately. He picked up the phone, said, "This is Donald Trump. If you do that, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but if you do, I'm going to lift every French-owned business's tax effective now. All your champagne, all the rubbish you bring into our country, 300%. You don't have a lot of time to answer. I don't want you to think about it. You need to give me an answer now. Are you going to do it or not? No. Have a good fucking day." Puts the phone down. That's it. So that can be seen as hostile, and it can be seen as wrong, and it can be seen as shit. This guy's a dictator, you know. But at the end of the day, America first.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the Russian, Chinese, all the Middle Eastern leaders respect him.
It's a beautiful story. I know Netanyahu tried to do that when he declared war on Palestine. It wasn't as effective, but yeah. My heart goes out to all the innocent people that have died in the Israel-Palestine conflict, not just now, but historically. I urge everyone who thinks they have an opinion on the conflict to please do a little bit of research. Just a Wikipedia search and just read. And the history. There's some nice videos on YouTube you can watch. Just inform yourself so that when you do offer an opinion, you have some type of context. And very importantly, we all need to, whenever these big things happen, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, try and make it relatable to yourself. Is there currently a conflict in your own family? As an example, how do you resolve that? Is it resolved through violence? You guys are fighting over your grandfather's inheritance. Is there a conflict between you and certain racial people in your town? We've got issues here in South Africa that we're trying to sort out. And what are the learnings that we can get from Israel and Palestine? We hope the conflict will be resolved. It would be pretty awesome if it gets resolved in our lifetime. If we have an ability to offer a peaceful solution, let's use our cell phones, let's use social media, not to promote hate. There's more than enough hate. We don't need more of it. We need more solutions. Same thing in South Africa as well. There's more than enough hate. Let's come up with solutions. Maybe they should have a rugby match, Israel versus Palestine. And, I apologize. Maybe that's insensitive. But yeah, our hearts and our hearts go out to the innocent people who really don't know what's going on and who are just trying to live their lives. And we hope the leaders will put aside politics, will put aside power struggles, will put aside even emotional, symbolic, and try and consider that, we're trying to build a better world and you have the ability. I mean, Nelson Mandela is one of the reasons he's celebrated. At a time when you could have come out and declared war, he showed the world that there's another way. So this could be a Nelson Mandela moment for both Israel and Palestine, and they can become immortalized. And we'll build statues and speak about them everywhere and be like, remember what the leaders did. That was amazing. And for the rest of the world, it becomes a blueprint on how to resolve conflicts.
Love it. Thank you.